the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
Over the last decade, and a lot of it's been made about what he was saying on the coaches show this week over there in Kentucky after getting drubbed by the Dogs in Athens on Saturday night under the lights, Matt Green. But when you look at the context for what Stoops said, and the fan who was just, I'm sure not the only Kentucky fan, kind of just dismayed after another top 25 team. There was some hype going into the game. Is like, could they upset Georgia and Athens, this, that, and the other? And then just kind of a demoralizing defeat. Like, they played better a year ago at home and took Georgia to hell basically with them in that really ugly offensive performance on both sides in Lexington a year ago. But this was kind of what happened 2 years ago in Athens, and just kind of when you hype it up and then it's like, oh, right, they're not even close when these two teams are both hyped going into the contest. And I understand why fans, like, if you're a Kentucky fan, you're starting to get a little bit anxious about the progress. Have you reached the ceiling, this, that, and the other? And then Stoops is like, I thought it was just kind of funny, because if you watch the video, he's not like mad. Like, to me, he was just like, look, man, like, I'm winning a lot of games at Kentucky. I'm the best Kentucky football, like, obviously Barrett Bryant, but he wasn't there this long. Like, I'm the best Kentucky coach you'll probably have in your lifetime. Like, I'm really good. I've been really good for your program for a long time. I've made you forget about basketball season for a couple months in the fall. Like, it's actually pretty nice, pretty good deal. Not a lot of high school talent in the state of Kentucky. Like, it's a really tough job. No one's won here before me. Like, no one's probably going to win here after me. But if you really want to get to Georgia, guess what? It's going to just require a lot more. And you're not going to do that anyway. And it's not realistic anyway. So it's like, what do you want? And that was just kind of that vibe to me from watching that and listening to what Stoops said. Did you garner the same impression from what Stoops said, Matt Green?
Yeah, for sure. It felt just kind of matter of fact, like, and I think he said, like, the paying players thing with Georgia. I think he clearly was like, because that's not against the rules anymore. I think he clearly, like, kind of heard how that sounded and was like not trying to throw shade at Georgia. He's just like, this is what the game is. And if you guys want to play that game, and I don't know the context too, like, our fans are on call-in shows now getting upset with Kentucky? Is this not enough? Like, if that's the case, like, yeah, I can understand where he's coming from. He's just like you're essentially the Oakland A's and Georgia's the Boston Red Sox. Like, you're not playing the same game. Like, yeah, you can scheme and do all the things you want, but at the end of the day, they're a big market club, and they're doing what it takes to win championships. And Kentucky's not doing that, and they've never done that. So if their Kentucky fans are really upset about it, this is then he's kind of just a victim of his own success, right? Because it's kind of similar on a different scale. If you look at Georgia and Mark Richt, like, the previous 97 years of Kentucky football before Mark Stoops, they had 2 10-win seasons. And the 11 years he's been at Kentucky, they've had 10-win seasons. They've gone to 22 bowl games in their history. 7 of those are under Mark Stoops. It's going to be 8 in 23 years. It's going to over 33% of their bowl games all time are with Mark Stoops as their head coach. So, yeah, maybe he did, like, kind of like Mark Richt, start to finish top 10, and Georgia was like, ooh, this tastes good. We want more. Like, he brought on those expectations. Like, when you look at Mark Stoops, it's like, yeah, we're actually going to bowl games and finish the season ranked. Football is actually a fun sport to be good at. And maybe they want to be really good, but it seems like if they want to be good, it's okay, put your money where your mouth is, because that's all it really takes. Because Mark Stoops is one of the best coaches out there. He's as good of a coach as you need. And that's why we've talked about Kentucky being this perfect job, right? Kind of sarcastically, like how Chase Daniel has the perfect job or Matt Leinart had the perfect NFL career. Like, he's got the solid SEC contract without the SEC expectations of, like, basically every program in this conference thinks they should be winning SEC. Like, you look at Arkansas doesn't really have anything that Kentucky doesn't have, except for some history of being good at football. And so the missing bowl games, the 6-6, the 7-5 doesn't sit well with them. Whereas Kentucky's going 6-6, 7-5, like, okay, solid. We're going to another bowl game. Like, so it's a completely different thing. And maybe honestly, if you think this is Mark Stoops like laying the groundwork for leaving for another job, because like he's been at Kentucky for so long, it's kind of like him, I don't know, like Arthur Blank saying, we could always go to somewhere else if you don't build the stadium. Like he's just like, if you guys want to be a big market club and be big donors, we can take Kentucky as high as you want, or I could go to Michigan State or something where they are going to pay more money for whatever it needs to be compete at the championship level.
No, I wondered too about how long he is for this job in Lexington. I mean, because it's clear he understands like where this program can go, where they're at. Like he's a smart guy. He's just he was a great DC at Florida State. He's won at Florida State. Like he's seen the highs of the highs. He was the DC on the championship team, right? With Jimbo? Am I misremembering that? Or he was the DC, wasn't he? In their title team with Jameis?
Jeremy Pruitt, I want to say, was the DC on that 2013 team. He was, I want to say his Florida State days might be like Bobby Bowden era.
Was he all the way back then?
He's been around for a while because I mean he's been a head coach when Jimbo won a national championship. He was probably at Kentucky already.
His last year at Florida State was 2012.
Oh, okay. So the 2013 was the national championship.
Yeah, so he was right before. Okay, so that was Pruitt who came in right after him. So he was 1 year off from that. But
so
either way,
helped build that.
Yeah, 100%. So I just like Michigan State, is that something that interests him? But like Northwestern, that's not a better job, obviously, than Kentucky and that kind of thing. So it's like there's not really a lot open right now that I think would be all that appetizing potentially to.
I think
Mark
Michigan
Stoops.
State is a better job than Kentucky, though.
Like, for sure. But
I think they are at least going to try to spend money like the big boys.
Well, you've seen them in the playoff. Like they can get into the playoff.
Yeah,
like we've seen,
sure.
like the best version of Michigan State can still make the playoff. The best version of Kentucky, I don't think can ever make the playoff. And that's the other part of it too. Is like I would have hung up on anyone getting mad over that if I'm Stoops. I'm like, I've beaten Florida 3 straight years. Do you understand that? Like Kentucky wasn't even smelling the jockstrap of Florida for 20 plus years. And you're over here like complaining like that Georgia, the best program in the last 3 years, is drubbing you like on the road. Like it's just okay. That's not where you're not going to get to Georgia's level, but can you push Tennessee 2 years ago? Like maybe we'll see how Tennessee plays in Lexington this year. Like you get Mizzou on the road this week. I mean, you look at the rest of the East, it's not like Kentucky is in this bad place. It's just Georgia. You look at even in the West, like you look at Arkansas right now. You look at who has a better fertile situation. You have Jimbo at Texas A&M with some more in-game issues, punting at 4th and 1 on the 4th. Like it could be so much worse if you're a Kentucky fan. I just wouldn't push Stoops. Like the Kentucky fans pushing Stoops, I'd be like,
No, they definitely shouldn't. But let's be honest, Stoops should get out now.
Yeah.
Because it's going to get a lot worse. Because like that stat that you saw that what did a caller pull up that stat? That he's beaten two SEC teams with a winning record the entire time he's been the head coach.
That finished with a winning record
The entire time he's been a head coach. And like a lot of that has been some down years of the SEC East. Like, let's be honest, like there's been some very weak years of the SEC East. And we know Kentucky's had a super weak out of conference schedule every year. Like I don't know any of, other than the Louisville game every year, I off the top of my head, I can't remember a Power 5 school Kentucky's played out of conference. So, I mean, they could have played one. I could be wrong, but Kentucky with this new SEC, other than Louisville every year. But Kentucky with this new SEC schedule, they're not going to be able to hide from anybody. So I think there's a reason why, like, he's elevated them to mediocre, but like that's all they are. It's like, it's not to be disrespectful to Kentucky, but like they are like exactly average, because I feel like if you're better than Kentucky, you're good. And if you're worse than Kentucky, you're bad. So they're just kind of and it feeds into that. Like, they have 2 wins over teams that have actually finished with winning records on the season. So, or in SEC play as far as that goes. So, but that's like a huge feat at Kentucky to get them to the point where they beat all the bad teams. Like they were one of the bad teams before. But yeah, if there's any like pressure, any like, I don't know, like getting tired of not doing more, like Mark Stoops should just go ahead and bounce, because this is probably as good as it's going to get for Kentucky.
I know what the job is for him, and it actually might come up this offseason. I
thought Michigan State was a good call, to be honest.
I think they can do better. Maybe I'm wrong. I think Michigan State can do better, but he's not a bad fallback. You know the job, and they should make it. It's a no-brainer. It's Iowa.
Is Iowa a better job than Kentucky?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think just the fact that you're in the SEC, I think if you're leaving Kentucky, you're going to leave for someone who can win a national championship. I don't know that Iowa can win a national championship.
But it can make the playoff. Iowa can make the playoff. There's an identity there. There's certain kind of players you can get over there.
With the new Big Ten, they're in a similar situation as Kentucky. The Big Ten West isn't going to be just super weak and get.
I don't know. I've seen elite Iowa over the last 20 years. I've never seen elite.
Have we
Kentucky.
though? I mean, we had Brad Banks. They were really
Drew
good.
Tate. No, there's been some elite Iowa.
Drew Tate is not elite Iowa. That's like
Albert.
What
was his
Iowa.
name? Albert Young. Number 21. What was his name back in the day?
I don't know. Sean Green, like
Ricky
that was
Stanzi,
not elite. That was
Sean
not elite
Green, yeah.
Iowa. Like there's the year they went undefeated. What was like 2015, 2016 or something, and lost in the Big Ten championship. But I think a lot of it was playing a super weak Big Ten West, and they just didn't get exposed until the Big Ten championship. Iowa, you can't win a national championship. You can't get better players at Iowa.
You can't win a national title, but I think it's a better job than Kentucky. Those are two separate conversations. I still would maintain they have more of a commitment to football.
What would Mark Stoops leave for?
He was also. You remember? Do you know where he played college ball at?
Is he
Iowa.
Arizona? Oh, he
played
at
Iowa?
Iowa?
Was an Iowa defensive back.
Okay.
Little Kirby action.
Did the other Stoops? Was Mike Stoops the head coach at Arizona? Is that right? Okay.
But I think Mark was actually.